All right, it's homebrew experiment time. Today I'm brewing a beer for my mother-in-law, who very generously gave me 6 pounds of chokecherries not too long ago. So I'm going to use half of those, 3 pounds, in a beer to brew for her. And I don't know. I haven't brewed with chokecherries before. I've had chokecherries before. I ate them all the time as a kid. I know they have a very strong flavor, a lot of astringency and stuff going on. I was trying to think of what beer style might pair well with that. I also have a couple of Saisons that I'm racking off of yeast cakes today, and I thought, you know what, why not do a second generation Saison on those yeast cakes? I'm going for something that's lower alcohol. I'm shooting for original gravity in the low 1040s, and because of the astringency and whatnot coming out of those chokecherries, I want a beer that's a little bit sweeter than a normal Saison might finish, or your typical, especially a lower gravity Saison might finish. So I'm not going to mash as low as I typically do with the Saison. I'm also adding, I'm kind of playing around with my Saison grist quite a bit in this one. I mean, let's go along for the ride, see what happens. Now for my grain bill here, I've got my base malt. It's 77.5% Weyermann Pilsner, just a nice grainy Pilsner malt. I've got 12.5% of Canada malting white wheat malt, and that should contribute, I'm hoping, some really nice silkiness that might help deal with some of that astringency from the chokecherries. I've got 7.5% of Vienna malt, again from Weyermann, and that's going to give me just a little bit of toastiness. And then the darker malt that you can see in here, this is some Caramunich III that I'm going to be adding in, and that's sort of like a big deviation of my typical Saison recipes. It's only 2.5%, but I'm hoping that will offer just a little bit of sort of toffee flavors. Again, some of that sweetness that might just help balance out the berries. So I'm milling this up on my Monster Mill 3mm Pro. Okay, so my strike water is ready. I've got it set at, we're going to be mashing at 65.5 degrees Celsius or 150 Fahrenheit. So definitely a different mash schedule than I typically use with my Saisons. Normally with this Weyermann Pilsner malt base, I'll do a protein rest for 20 minutes. And then with the Saisons, I'll do a 2-step mash where I do a really low beta and a higher alpha amylase rest, just to make it as attenuable as possible. But again, because that's not really what I'm trying to achieve with this particular beer, I'm just going to do this single step mash here. And plus with the that higher percentage of wheat, it's already going to likely have some haze because of that. So the protein rest is probably unnecessary. So I've got this all nicely stirred up, and I'm going to go ahead and let this mash for an hour. Whew! Super hazy here right off the bat with this recirc, but that should clear up a little bit here soon. As promised, things are looking less hazy in the sight glass there. I can actually see the flame through it now, which is awesome. I've just begun the process here after an hour now. I'm ramping up to 75 degrees Celsius, or that 168 degrees Fahrenheit range, and yeah, it's just continuing to recirc. Well, after around 20 minutes sitting at that mash out temperature, I am ready to begin fly sparging. I'm just switching over some lids. Super convenient there. Awesome. And begin doing exactly that. So we're just running off from the HLT into the mash tun. Once I have an inch or so of water on top of that, I'll begin transferring from the bottom over into the boil kettle. Woo! Look at that beautiful little wort. Very nice. I'm gonna let this rise up a little bit below the intake valves down here, or ports down here, and then we can first wort hop. So while not a very hop forward beer, I am trying out something new on this that I'm excited about. These are some TNT hops, which apparently give a lot of kind of tropical flavors, red fruit, green fruit, all that kind of stuff. Pretty cool. So I'm doing a First Wort hop here with 24 grams of it. It's an 11% alpha, so that's going to give me the majority of the 16 IBU I'm going with, which again is kind of low for style, but I also have a lower original gravity than it calls for, and I don't want a very bitter beer. So yeah, also this should give it just a little bit of hop flavor, possibly, although there's a very good chance that the chokecherries will just steamroll right over that. But either way, I get to try out these hops. Well, we got enough wort in the boil kettle to fire it up. So, woo! Lemon! That's the color of the wort in the sight glass as it's sparging off here. That's still mainly the color that it started out as. So the finished product should be a little bit lighter than this once it gets diluted with the water. We have struck a boil! Awesome. I'm doing a 90-minute boil on this just to reduce potential DMS in the finished product since it's a Pilsner-based beer. There are no more hops going in until flameout, so I just get to hang out for a while now. With 10 minutes left, I fired in some super moss, and then I just cranked it back up, and we're just hitting a boil once again. And we just hit 0 minutes left on the boil, so I'm just going to kill that. And I'm adding here some flameout hops. I've got 56 grams, again, of that TNT hop. This should just add perhaps a little bit of hop aroma to the finished product. Now very carefully getting my stainless spoon. I'm just going to whirlpool here for roughly around 30 seconds or so, and then let it sit for at least 15 minutes. And there should just be a nice little cone. That'll make it quite a bit easier to rack off into the carboys. Here we are racking off into this carboy. Already an eager yeast cake waiting for it. And I've got the drain hose kind of up a little bit higher, allowing it to aerate sort of a little bit as it goes in here. Still have the heat wrap and everything on here, ready to rock as soon as I get it back downstairs to the brewery. So I did pretty well. I ran these off at 73 Fahrenheit. I was aiming for around 75, but it's just playing around with how much water is flowing through that plate chiller. So that's good. I've got these set on the temperature controllers. They're going to be wrapping up to 75 here. Quite quickly, I imagine, and they should be off to the races fermenting. And reading below the meniscus, we got 1041. I was shooting for 1042. I will take it. So just 4 hours later, these beers are already starting to take off. Nice little activity there. Fantastic. Forced attenuation test came in at 1010, but I guess we'll see what that Saison yeast does. For this Saison, I've got these chokecherries. These were previously frozen, and then I just had them vacuum sealed, and I've had them at 130 Fahrenheit here in the hot water bath for about 2.5 hours, which is probably longer than I needed, but they are nice and pasteurized, so it's time to let them cool down, and then into the beer they go. Well, the Saison here is ready to receive the chokecherries. So I'm just off camera here probably. I am slicing into this bag with some sanitized scissors. I sanitized them with some Star San. Everything here has also been sanitized, of course. You can see a bunch of juice is coming out of here and getting in, which is awesome. That's one of the things I like about sous vide pasteurizing is with that gentle heat, it's obviously not too excessive, you wind up getting some juice that comes out, especially when the berries have been frozen in the past. So you're getting the benefit of not only the pasteurization, but also sort of some juice extraction, which is really nice. And now this fun little, this is my usual berry delivery system here with this funnel and this sanitized wooden spoon. Chokecherries are a little bit harder to get into here than some of the other fruit that I use just because of the large pits that are in them, but we'll make it work. It'll take a minute though. That process is always a bit of a workout. I did have this sanitized here as well when I brought out the thermal and everything and had it balanced in here, just so that nothing could mess that up. But we've got our chokecherries in here, and we'll see what it does. I'm sure fermentation will kick off a little bit. So this is 2 days into the fermentation. I currently have these sitting at 79 Fahrenheit. I jacked them up to 77 yesterday and then 79 this morning. And depending on what this is doing, it might actually get kicked up another notch tomorrow morning. Oh yeah, the next day these chokecherries are still happily fermenting away in here. Reading below the meniscus, this Chokecherry Saison came in at 10:07. After letting this Chokecherry Saison kind of just cool out for a few days and letting some extra yeast drop out, I've just got it set up here and I am pressure racking into a corny keg. And I should point out that when I went ahead and was pressure transferring these, I put one of those little plastic caps on the bottom of my stainless steel racking cane, and that just helped keep out any of the berries and stuff that otherwise would collect, get sucked up, and then running through would get stuck at this point here in the line. So that saves me a lot of headache right there. Now, after pressure racking into that corny keg, I chilled it down, I gelatin-fined, let it sit a week, then transferred it into a second keg, carved it up, got it on tap. You can check out all those processes in the brewing playlist on the channel. Now, let's get this poured. Woohoo! Look at that beautiful color there. It has this gorgeous little red to it. Okay, we got to get this outside in the sun. It's so hot out here right now. Perfect weather for this Chokecherry Saison. Ooh, now that is a really nice pairing. You've got that slight pepperiness and citrus coming out of and just like a little bit of funk coming out of that fermentation. Then you've got, with those TNT hops, you've got the sort of the red berry character going on, although I have a feeling that might be a little bit steamrolled by all those chokecherries, which go really, really well in this beer. That tannic earthiness coming out of that pairs really nicely with the funk and the pepperiness and whatnot of the yeast. And it gets a little bit of that toastiness coming out of the Vienna malt. And even though it's a nice dry beer, it has some nice softness to us with that white wheat malt. So the grist, definitely happy with that. Really, really delightful. Super cool color too. Nice, dry, freaking Saison for summer. So yeah, give it a whirl if you can get your hands on some chokecherries. And until next time, keep it at 11.